when Chief Afam caught a barefoot, ragged boy dancing in front of his paralyzed daughter Amaka, he shouted for the guards to drag him away. But that single moment would later turn into a story that shocked the entire city. In the bustling heart of the city stood a mansion that blinded eyes with its beauty. The walls were white as snow, the gates glittered like gold, and tall palm trees lined the compound like soldiers on duty. To outsiders, it was a palace of joy. But inside, sorrow ruled like a tyrant. This was the home of Chief Afam, one of the wealthiest men in the land. He had fleets of cars, servants at his call, and companies scattered across nations. Yet, in the quiet of his nights, his pillow was always wet with tears. For Chief Afam had lost the joy of his life. 2 years ago, tragedy struck like a bolt of lightning. His beloved wife died in a ghastly accident, and his only daughter, Amaka, then only 7 years old, lost the use of her legs. Once, Amaka had been a bright child who ran like the wind and laughed like the birds at dawn. But now she sat in a wheelchair, pale and silent. Her laughter had become a memory, her joy a ghost. Chief Afam brought doctors from Lagos, Abuja, even from faraway America and India. They examined her, treated her, and swallowed millions of his wealth. But at last they shook their heads and said, "We are sorry, sir. She may never walk again." That day, Chief Afam learned that money, though mighty, could not buy peace. And Amaka, once the sunshine of the mansion, became its shadow. Every evening, she sat near the golden gate, watching other children run past. Their laughter cut her heart like a knife. She longed to join them, but her legs remained lifeless. And so, though the mansion glittered outside, within it echoed with sorrow. Not far from the palace of wealth lived a boy the city had forgotten. His name was Chima. He had no mother, no father, no home. He slept under bridges, searched dustbins for scraps, and drank water from gutters when thirst burned his throat. People called him Dirty Boy, chasing him from their shops. Many nights he slept with nothing in his belly but tears. But Chima had one thing that kept him alive: dance. Whenever his sorrow grew too heavy, he would rise on his skinny feet, lift his hands, and dance. His bare feet stamped the ground, his arms swayed like branches in the wind, and his head shook to a rhythm only his heart could hear. In those moments, hunger lost its sting, cold lost its cruelty, and pain lost its voice. One afternoon, weary from hunger, Chima wandered near Chief Afam's mansion. Through a small crack in the tall gate, he saw a sight that froze him. A girl sat in a wheelchair, her hands resting lifelessly on her lap, her face clouded with sorrow. Chima whispered, "She has riches, yet her heart looks poorer than mine." And then an idea struck him. "When I dance, my sorrow flees. Maybe if I dance for her, her sorrow too will break." He looked left. He looked right. The guards stood at the front, distracted. At the back wall, a small hole where bricks had fallen open beckoned. Without a second thought, Chima squeezed his skinny body through and stepped into the palace of sorrow. Amaka saw him first, a ragged boy in torn clothes, ribs pushing through his chest, barefoot and dusty. Fear widened her eyes. Was this boy a thief? Should she scream? Before she could, Chima bent low, his voice trembling yet gentle. "Please don't be afraid. I did not come to steal. I only came to make you smile." Amaka frowned. "How can this dirty boy make me smile?" she thought. But there was something honest in his eyes, something soft that made her wait. Then, without another word, Chima stepped back, lifted his arms, and began to dance. At first, his moves were slow. He lifted one leg, turned, bent low, then rose again. Then the rhythm in his soul took over. He stamped his feet, spun in circles, waved his arms, and shook his head. Dust rose around him, but his face glowed with joy. Amaka's eyes widened. Her lips quivered. Then, for the first time in 2 years, a sound broke from her chest, a laugh. She clapped her hands. She shouted, "Again! Do it again!" Chima spun faster, jumped higher, and twisted his thin body like fire in the wind. Amaka laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of joy. For the first time since her accident, the mansion echoed with laughter. But their joy was short-lived. Inside his study, Chief Afam heard the sound that had been lost for years, his daughter's laughter. He rushed to the window and froze. There was Amaka clapping in her wheelchair, and before her, a ragged boy danced like a wild spirit. Chief Afam's face darkened. His voice thundered. "Guards! Who is that boy? Seize him at once." The guards moved like shadows. Boots pounded the tiles. Before Chima could bow again, rough hands grabbed his arms. He did not fight. He only lowered his head, as if bowing to the wind. Chief Afam arrived, his steps sharp, his face hard. The sun burned on his gold wristwatch, but there was no light in his eyes. "Who are you?" he thundered. "Who let this child of the gutter inside my house?" "Father!" Amaka's voice broke, thin as a reed. "Not a word," he snapped, but his eyes could not avoid the glow on her cheeks, the dew of laughter still fresh. For a heartbeat, his anger trembled. Chima's knees buckled. He slipped from the guard's grip and knelt, palms on the floor. "Sir," he said, voice raw, "forgive me. I did not come to steal. I came because I know what sorrow feels like. When sorrow sits on my chest, I dance, and my spirit breathes. I wanted to share that breath with her." Chief Afam clenched his jaw. "You broke into my house." "I broke into your sorrow," Chima whispered. The words pierced like a thorn. The guards shifted, unsure. Amaka rolled her chair forward, the wheels squeaking. "Papa," she pleaded. I laughed. "I laughed, Papa. Don't send him away." Silence held the garden. A bird tried a note and abandoned it. At last, Chief Afam waved a tired hand. "Let him go." The guards released Chima. Relief spread across Amaka's face. "But listen well," Afam continued, eyes like iron. "You will never enter here again. This is not a playground for rats. If I see you pass this gate, I will have you locked up." Chima bowed until his forehead touched the tiles. "Yes, sir." He rose, but before he turned away, he looked at Amaka and smiled, a small, brave smile. She pressed her lips together, fighting tears, and lifted her palm in a tiny wave. That night the house returned to its old silence. Yet the silence felt thinner, like a curtain that the wind could billow. Chief Afam sat in his study with open files he could not read. In his mind, a ragged boy said, "I broke into your sorrow." He rubbed his face. "It's nothing," he told himself. "Just a street child chasing luck." But deep inside, a question opened its eyes. If a boy with dust in his hair could blow laughter into a dead room, what was the use of all his gold? In her bed, Amaka stared at the ceiling fan making patient circles. Every turn whispered one word, tomorrow. Tomorrow came with a thin fog and a hungry sun. Amaka wheeled herself to the gate earlier than usual. The palm fronds whispered like gossiping aunties. Her heart beat a drum in her throat. At first, there was only street noise, Okadas whining, hawkers calling, radios playing faraway songs. Then a shadow moved at the corner of the gate, small as a question mark. Chima. He did not enter. He stayed outside the bars like a careful prayer. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied, smiling with all her teeth. He began to dance there on the dusty road, softly, playfully, as if each movement asked her permission. His feet tapped, his wrists traced circles, his shoulders told jokes his mouth did not know how to say. Amaka laughed so hard a guard at the far post turned to hide his own smile. Every day it continued. He never crossed the gate. He never reached for alms. He brought only dance. In return, she gave him what she had, applause, a biscuit slipped through the bars, a banana stolen from the breakfast tray. He refused at first. She insisted like a queen. They found a rhythm, his gift, her sharing, both hearts lighter. Then came the first spark. Chima leaped and landed with a gentle stamp. A tremor rose through the ground like a shy note and climbed Amaka's wheelchair, humming into her bones. She gasped. "What?" Chima asked, freezing mid-turn. "My toes," she whispered, eyes wide. They tingled. They stared at each other as if a spirit had just passed between them. After a breath, he nodded once and continued, slower now, like a doctor finding the right medicine. The next day the tingle returned, stronger, prickling like fresh rain on a tin roof. The day after, her feet grew warm. On the fourth day, Amaka clenched the armrests and willed her toes to move. A twitch, so small it could have been imagination, flickered beneath her blanket. She wanted to shout. She wanted to run, but the memory of Doctor's flat voices made her hide the tiny light like a secret candle cupped in two hands. At night she prayed, voice trembling. God, if this is a trick of my mind, be kind. But if it is you, don't stop. Across town, under a bridge, Chima curled on cardboard. His stomach gnawed, but his heart was a full bowl. He pressed a hand to his ribs and coughed into the crook of his elbow, dry, stubborn cough that had lived with him through harmattan and rain. Just a little more, he told the darkness. Just a little more, and she will stand. Whispers grew legs. Maids hummed while sweeping. Guards tapped their boots off beat. Even the cook salted stew like a drummer counting time. The mansion was changing from the inside out, as if the walls themselves remembered how to breathe. But Chief Afam hated rumors. Stop this nonsense, he scolded the head maid. You are not doctors. Hope is expensive. I have paid for it before. That evening, Amaka rolled into his study. The light fell on her face and showed him a glow that did not come from lamps. Papa, she said softly, when he dances, my legs feel awake. Afam's eyes flinched. Don't do this to yourself, he said. I won't bury another hope. Come and see, she whispered. Enough. His voice cracked like dry wood. The room shrank around them. Amaka's fingers loosened on the wheel. She turned and left without a sound. The next morning he happened to stand near the curtains upstairs when the gate hour came. He told himself he was checking security. Through the slits he saw the ragged boy outside the bars, moving like a candle flame in wind. He saw his daughter's cheeks round with laughter, saw her lift her heels as if obeying a drum only she could hear. Something softened in him, and at once pride, like a jealous dog, barked in his chest. He shut the curtain hard. Sir, the head guard said later, awkward. The child, the street one. He has not crossed the gate since that day. Should we chase him away? Afam stared at the man's boots. If he causes trouble, remove him. But, sir, the girl. Do I pay you to argue? The next day a city health van made its rounds. At the corner by the mansion, the driver leaned out. You there, boy off the road. Chima stepped back, coughing into his wrist. The driver's nose wrinkled. You're sick. Just cough, Chima said, smiling. Dance cures it. Dance cures hunger, the driver muttered, already gone. That evening rain burst from the clouds like a carried grief dropped at last. Chima danced anyway, bare feet slapping puddles, water flinging from his elbows like silver fish. Amaka laughed under a shawl. Lightning stitched white threads across the sky. When she went in, she found Chief Afam waiting in the corridor, face unreadable. Papa, she whispered, bracing for anger. Instead, he sighed, old and human. Tomorrow, he said. Bring him to the garden. Only for a while. I will watch with my own eyes. Amaka's hand flew to her mouth. She nodded, tears alive and shining. Somewhere inside Chief Afam, a locked door clicked softly. Morning wore a clean wrapper. The garden smelled of wet earth and lemon leaves. Amaka sat beneath the almond tree. Chief Afam stood a few paces back, arms folded, jaw tight, as if bracing for a blow. Chima entered through the gate, this time invited. He washed his feet at the tap, smoothed his shirt, and bowed. Up close, Afam saw the boy's eyes. Not begging, not sly, only bright, tired, sincere. Begin, Afam said. Chima did not rush. He closed his eyes and listened to the garden. Bee thread hum, leaf sigh, a distant pot clanging in the kitchen like a bell keeping time. Then he moved. Soft at first. His ankles drew slow circles. His shoulders answered. His breath found the music the world keeps for those who are quiet enough to hear. Amaka's fingers tightened on the armrests. I can feel it, she said, half to herself. Chima stamped gently. The sound entered the soil and rose like heat. It climbed the wheels and kissed Amaka's calves. She inhaled sharply. Toes stirred beneath the blanket. She pushed against the arms of the chair. Nothing. She pushed again, teeth clenched, eyes blazing. Chief Afam took a step forward, then stopped, afraid his worry would break the fragile thing being born. Again, Chima whispered. not to her legs but to her courage. She pressed. The chair rocked. Something inside her that had slept for years opened one eye. "Stand," she breathed. Chima spun once, twice, 3 times. The air seemed to coil around his body and unwind into her bones. Amaka gripped, lifted, trembled, and rose. The chair squealed back, empty. The world forgot how to make sound. A maid screamed. A guard dropped his radio. Chief Afam put both hands over his mouth as if to hold his heart in. Amaka stood like a foal meeting the earth. Then a step. Then another. Wobbly. Wet with tears. Certain as sunrise. She walked. She walked to Chima first. He was bent at the waist, hands on his knees, breath ripping through his chest like cloth. He looked up and laughed, quiet, unbelieving, golden. Then she turned and walked into her father's arms. Chief Afam fell to his knees, sobbing out years of stone. "Thank you," he whispered to heaven, to earth, to the boy, to anyone listening. "Thank you." The news ran faster than morning. The billionaire's daughter walks. A miracle at Chief Afam's house. Drummers found their drums. Praise singers found their stories.